Welcome to Flip the Cap, the industry's premier podcast that delivers insurance insights with a twist. I'm your host, Kathryn Smith, and today's episode marks a very exciting milestone for Jencap, our 10th birthday. Joining me on the podcast is our fearless leader and CEO, Jennings. In this special birthday edition, we're going to take it all the way back to 2016 and discuss the formation of the company, some of the strategic decisions that got us where we are today, and what the future holds for Jencap. Whether you're looking for fresh takes, a deeper insight, or a competitive edge, you're in the right place. JJ, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Happy birthday, Jencap. Let's take this conversation all the way back to 2016. And if you will, just set the stage for the listener. What were the market conditions? What was the competitive landscape? What was the need that you saw Jencap being able to fill at the time?
Jencap is really the genesis and the result of a group of us starting another company called WTCI, Wholesale Trading, back in 2010. And we had kind of flipped the insurance wholesale dynamic upside down. Instead of going after thousands of clients, we wanted to go after a handful and do a bunch of business with them very quickly. A super high level of service commitment was made, and we were pretty successful pretty quick. And part of that was we did a lot of data sharing with our handful of clients that we started with. And so guys that started the company at the time were people like Joe Hayes, Chris Bauer, Sean Burke, Bruce Norris, Les Ross. We got off to a really fast start, and those guys did a phenomenal job of taking care of those clients like we said we were going to, and keeping up to much higher standards than most wholesalers were providing at that point in time. And after about 5 years of running out WTCI, we weren't set up to handle small business. We were set up to handle their bigger accounts. And quite frankly, some of our clients got a little bit frustrated that we wouldn't be able to handle any of their smaller business. And actually those guys I just listed were kind of getting a little bit frustrated that they were just basically going and cherry picking the biggest accounts and couldn't work on the smaller accounts. So honestly, Jencap in 2016 is derived from our need to be able to place small business. And to do that, we knew we needed to get into the binding authority business. And back in 2016, binding authority business was not done by the national brokers on a national level. The binding authority carriers had a very regional, local format and appointment system. So we knew to start it would be very difficult from scratch. Number one, to get the appointments would have been difficult, and to get the scale and the coverage for our clients would have been a decade-long process. And so we decided that the right thing to do was go out, raise money, and go out and acquire what we needed. And we spent the better part of a year interviewing, I think, every private equity firm in the world. At least that's what it felt like. And we came up with a great relationship with the Carlyle Group. We were their only startup ever, so it took them a long time to convince them that we were going to be able to pull this off. Once we got the sponsorship of Carlyle, we got out fast and furious and made, I think, 3 or 4 acquisitions within the first 6 months. And then we just kept going from there. And it's been a great run. We'll made, I think, our 23rd acquisition. We're in the process of 24 and 25th acquisition right now. And we're looking at being, hopefully north of $4.5 billion in premium. And when we started, we were probably, maybe 300 million, something like that. So been a terrific run, and that's really how the company got started. Really got started because we had a need that we needed to fill, and we knew we had to get dramatically bigger, quicker, to provide that need for our clients.
So with M&A being such an important part of our strategy over the last 10 years, talk about your personal philosophy around M&A activity. What boxes have to be checked before you're interested in buying a business?
it's almost no different than when you're hiring people either, right? We're just looking for really good people, as Matt Dunn and Matt Gerson, who kind of do all the legwork on that stuff for us. It's got to be a business that we feel would be better because it's owned by Jencap. It's got to be a business that we add something to it, that it's going to grow because Jencap owns it. I mean, we've walked away from, oh my God, hundreds of deals over the last 10 years, just because we didn't think it fit the bill, just because the owners didn't have a growth plan, because the owners wanted to walk away. And when we were much smaller, things like that were scary, right? We needed to know that we had somebody that was invested in the business, wanted to grow the business, had a plan for growth. And if it was a program business, it had to be a little bit probably more diverse than just a single program with a single carrier, right? I don't think our investors early on wanted to get involved with something that could go to zero. In the private equity world, zero is a really bad number. So we were very cautious at the beginning, and it was about the people. And so when we bumped into somebody that we thought was going to be a terrific partner with us, that was going to add value, that we were going to add value to their firm, and whether that had been at the time new carrier relationships, access to more product, technology, straightening out their capital structure, whatever it made sense for them, as long as it made sense for us, then we would get very aggressive, and we were very successful in pinpointing the deals that we wanted and getting those done. And quite frankly, the ones that we got done early on, God, they were long time old family-owned businesses that never wanted to sell, but for whatever reason, the time was right. And frankly, a bunch of them we had a relationship with for years, right? And you could point to the NIF acquisition, for example, right? I mean, I had chased those guys at my other companies for years, known Mark Marr and Mike Orlando and others for decades, frankly. And so when the time was right, and luckily the time was right for them and the time was right for us, we were able to come together, and that's been a fantastic acquisition for us.
So Jencap isn't the first company you started. This obviously isn't your first rodeo. I'm not going to go through your resume because most people listening know it, but where did this entrepreneurial spirit come from?
WTCI is really the first company that I started on my own, right? That was my own, and I was, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s. So I wish it had been a stronger driving force earlier in my life. But actually, I worked for a company early on in my career and spent a long time there called Tri-City. And it was just an entrepreneurial type firm, right? We were always looking to do something different. And obviously I was partners there, with John Hahn, who's the chairman of Galway Holdings now. And he is clearly an entrepreneurial spirit and that kind of philosophy. And, almost everything he does derives around some sort of entrepreneurial thought. And so I was just exposed to that kind of thought process, him as a mentor. And if you look across the Jencap ecosystem and you look at our guys that go out and create new client expectations every day, new client relationships every day, that's entrepreneurial. You look at guys who go out and start new programs, that's entrepreneurial, right? Really, we're an accumulation of a lot of people with, I think, that kind of thought process. And so, I think the wholesale business overall has a lot of entrepreneurial type aspects to it. And I just kind of fed off that after being a wholesaler for so long, and then wanting to start and create something that we thought would be very unique. And we thought we could get off the ground running really quick.
So as you sit back and think about how far we've come, when was the first moment that you sort of sat back and went, holy shit, we actually pulled this Jencap thing off? Was there a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, I think we're going to do this?
But once we had gotten WTCI to a level and we decided to do the Jencap entity, I was pretty confident that we were going to be successful. I kind of plotted it out pretty well in my head, on paper, spent a ton of time, obviously, with the investors about what were the first shoes that were going to drop here, and a domino effect. And once we got a couple right off the bat out of our belt, and we got some positive cash flow going. And remember, we were coming in with WTCI, already a small, successful entity with some really terrific people behind it. I was pretty sure we were going to be successful. Now, to what extent? That's a whole nother story. It's not like I can't say there were never any sleepless nights, right? We certainly had a couple bumps in the road along the way early on that caused me to miss about 5 years worth of sleep in my life. But
trust me, I don't think anyone's sitting back thinking this evolution of Jencap's success was easy for anybody.
No, absolutely
it never
not.
is.
But even today, I something's not right. I think you guys all know I can go to DEFCON 4 pretty 4 if I'm stressing. So, but I was pretty positive early on that this was going to be a good run, and we were going to be able to pull this together.
And we have, which is really cool. How do we get here? How did Jencap grow from this idea that you said, I have this plan in my head, I have this plan on paper, to 10 short years later, to your point, we're at $4.5 billion. Obviously, take out the M&A and the pops of premium and the businesses we've acquired. But how did we get here? What's Jencap's secret sauce?
I don't know if it's a secret sauce, but I think, quite frankly, we've been, pretty lucky with the people that we've inherited via M&A. I think we've been very lucky that we have some very generous leaders, and when I say generous, I mean of time, in the way they treat people, in the way they have looked at production in general, and the fact that it hasn't been a gigantic ego play like I think a lot of wholesale entities fall into the trap. And to be honest, I can't take much credit for it. So if you looked at how do I think the success is, it's one, it's the people. It's two, the leadership, and the way that generosity has spread. Our guys are looking for the best home for an account, not just where they can place it. And so that kind of mentality, that kind of coordination, because it does take coordination internally, right? And that kind of cooperation amongst our employees and our top producers and our top employees. And by doing that kind of sharing and being generous with their time, they have lifted up a younger group that probably would have taken easily double the amount of time to get to where they are. So that culture is really hard to create. I don't know if you can't force it. God knows I've tried in other companies and been an utter failure, frankly. The worst word in the wholesale world is cross-sell, because it's kind of a bullshit word and nobody's capable of doing it, until I've seen this culture evolve at Jencap and across the overall Galway platform. So it's unique. I really believe it's unique, and I can't take that much credit for it.
I've had an interesting seat being in this marketing role and interviewing people for the last 8 years. And the most consistent thing that comes from every single one of our leaders, our brokers, our practice leaders, everyone across the board, I'm always ending Flip the Caps and ending videos with, why Jencap? What makes Jencap unique? I've never scripted a single person in 8 years, and their answer is always the same. It is always one team, one mission. We check our egos at the door. It is all about our customer and being that one-stop shop for whatever their needs are. And if that means pulling in someone who has more experience, if that means completely giving the business to someone else, like, we find a way to make it worthwhile for everybody. But to your point, you could try all you wanted. And as a marketer, to have that level of consistency that's completely unscripted it's just a beautiful thing to sit back and watch and see, because no one's ever told them to say that genuinely is their experience. And that's why some of the best brokers in our business continue to stay at Jencap. And it's been really cool being a part of it all these years. Just my side note anecdote.
It's a fantastic culture, and it's it really is a differentiation. And I it's funny. I explained that we just said we went through a big RFP with a big, huge national broker, and and that's one of our selling points. Nobody else can really say it. Nobody else. Well, a lot of people could say it.
They could say it.
They could say it, but I assure you, it's not. It is not commonplace anywhere else.
What's the next milestone you're pursuing for the company, and how do you think we get there?
Well, listen, we've been in an incredible marketplace for a wholesaler. The best 4 years, certainly, from a marketplace perspective, and I mean an insurance marketplace of my career. Certainly, it's a 40+ year career. Never experienced a 4 or 5 year run where the market was consistently that hard across multiple lines, and so we're exiting that market clearly and going into a much softer rate environment in our industry, and it will test people. It will be a different type of sales process. It will be a different kind of challenge, but your better wholesalers always do well, even going into a softer market, right? And our people have to understand that and execute on that. They'll have to be much more visible with their clients, as all our competitors will be. We'll have to be much more visible with our carriers. It'll be much more of a volume game. We've been in soft markets for basically 40 years. Out of 40 years, there's only been 6 or 7 years where you would consider it an actually beneficial rate hardening environment. And so it's just different than it's been for the last 4 or 5 years. So for the people listening to this that started their career 4 years ago, this is not an April Fool's joke. This really is the marketplace, and the real marketplace. This is what the marketplace has been like for the majority of my career. So don't panic. Get out, get your clients, see your clients, make sure your clients know you're there, and get out there every day and push. Because going into a softer market like this, every single insured is going to market their account, every single one, because everyone is expecting a cheaper premium now. And that's your job, right? And our job is now to go make sure the eventual insured gets what he's looking for and satisfies, and we satisfy what he wants with his retailer, and our retailer's expectations are completed on our side of the equation. So that's the job, and I'm confident that we have the team that's going to adapt and go forward and continue our growth.
So JJ, 5 years from now, you and I are sitting down doing the same thing. What are we talking about in terms of what we've achieved over the last 5 years and how far the company's come from the 10th anniversary to the 15th? What happens next?
Well, first and foremost, right, amazing that we got to 10. Amazing that we're here. Amazing that we've gotten to this size. Amazing that we've created this culture. And if you say, okay, great, here we are, 10 years, $4.5 billion, far exceeded any of our expectations from the beginning. So where do we go? And I spend a lot of time thinking about that. And if I was giving this presentation, which basically I will be giving it to everybody at Jencap de facto of this interview, we'll need to be a $10 billion company, premium rise from 5 years from now. I believe that. I believe it's attainable via our continued organic growth, our continued M&A, our continued, creation of new entities, new programs. And what we need to do, though, is drive that number, drive that growth, but remember who we are. Never lose sight of where we started. Never lose sight of the culture that's been created, and continue that to become 10 billion, not blow everything up and start stuff and bring people in that are going to destroy the culture, that type of, growth at all cost. It's never really been our scenario. And I still believe we can double the size of the company and not blow that culture up and keep to what we are. We've always been a people first company, and we need that people first type of culture as we grow. And I'm confident we can do that based upon the leadership. But, 5 years from now, there'll be other people in positions that have grown through this organization, living and experiencing that culture. And so it'll be their responsibility to continue that. And I'm really confident in the people that we have here. And I'm really confident in their ability to continue that. but also their want. I can see that they want that culture to continue, and that's the way we're gonna build this company. We're gonna continue to do that, and as we make more and more acquisitions, we'll embrace them and we'll bring them into that culture, and they'll thrive in it, right? And so I know it sounds like a crazy number, but it's not, right? It's just continue to do what we do and do it well and execute on the plan, and we'll get there, and we'll be a dominant force in the insurance wholesale market.
The perpetuation plan has never been our problem. We have such incredible, capable leaders that continue, to your point, to rise up. That's definitely a gift that we have.
It has to, and if a company without a perpetuation plan is a company looking to die, right? So we take it really seriously in the way we look into the future for entity. In fact, that's so many companies that we've looked at from an M&A perspective. They just frankly, they ran out of time because they didn't have a perpetuation plan. That will never happen here.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure working with you all these years, and I'm excited for what's to come as we've put together some of, just in the marketing world, some of our deliverables for our 10th anniversary. It's been really, really cool to visually see the evolution of the company, of our brand, of everything that we're doing in the marketplace. It's been a really nice reflection point to see how much progress we've made.
And you've been a big part of it, right? I mean, marketing in our company has been very effective, and it's helped with the culture, and it's helped identify what differentiates Jencap and Galway Holdings. So, kudos to you and your team also.
Well, thank you for that. And happy birthday, Jencap. We love you. You are tuned in to Flip the Cap, the industry's premier podcast that delivers insurance insights with a twist. We'll see you next time. Cheers.